And welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Bums podcast. It's your host, Rob, a.k.a. B-Ball Archives. And once again, I got the bums in the house. James, thank you for being here. But AJ, you're on vacation.
I am in vacation mode. Vacation mode it is. I brought a headset just to record this podcast because it is very important that we talk about something that happened about 15 hours away in the future from me. Spurs were in France. They're eating croissants, drinking French wine, doing the damn thing. We got to talk about it. The good, the bad, the very bad, the super ugly, the gross.
Well, luckily that week gave us a little bit of everything, I think. So
we got to talk about the legends that made the trip to France, because there was a bunch of legends that went out there. I was like, oh my God, I never thought I'd see Francisco, was it Olsen or what's his name?
Elson?
Yeah. Never thought I'd see him again. And there he was, like standing next to Rob, or D-Rob. And I'm like, holy shit, look at that. So it was good to see all the old Spurs, but
yeah.
I thought it was going to be fun to watch the Spurs play on ESPN in Mexico in Spanish. And you know what? They still suck in Spanish. So just a heads up.
Well, yeah, if you're referring to that last game, we definitely got our cheeks clapped. That was a pretty sorry outing. And for most of the game, it really wasn't that bad. Sure, we weren't shooting that well. Our defense didn't look that aggressive, but we were still in the game. There was a point late in the third quarter where we had the lead, and we absolutely blew it. We let them go on an 11-0 run, didn't stop the bleeding. And then a later point in the fourth quarter, we let them go on a 17-0 run, didn't stop the bleeding. We just let it keep happening to us. So I feel like it's more how we lost that game than the fact that we lost it. It was just really disheartening just to see us give it up in the fourth.
Yeah, from the last, I think, 4 minutes and 30 seconds of the third quarter on through the fourth quarter, the Pacers outscored the Spurs 57-18.
Yeah, you're not going to win games that way.
No, that's just brutal. And like Rob said, it's multiple big runs, multiple. And the whole game felt, to me, like it was kind of teetering. They figured it out, and then all of a sudden the bottom fell out. I don't quite understand that one, how it played out.
It was cool to see us come back in the third quarter because we were down by 15 at halftime, but then Tyrese Halliburton happened, and he was making some ridiculous shots. I mean, that dude is an absolute stud. And shame on any Spurs fan who thinks that they would take Devin Vassell over Tyrese Halliburton. That is utterly ridiculous. So we just couldn't get anything going. One thing after another, one shot after another. You look up at the score, and all of a sudden, it's ballooned up to a 20-point lead, and that was kind of the end of that. And unfortunately, those French fans are going to be walking away from that arena with kind of a sour taste in their mouth with that Spurs loss. But at least they saw Spurs win, and we played great that first game. I mean, 140 points was fantastic, but we just got hot. And when you get hot and one person starts making it, then the other one starts making it, then it just becomes contagious. The same thing happened in the second game, but the opposite.
Right. Yeah, I mean, to an extreme degree, when we look at the Pacers and their shooting, they shot 52, 43, 93 splits yesterday.
Jeez.
That is legendary team shooting right there. You know, Tyrese Halliburton going 6 for 9 from beyond the arc right when they needed it the most. The Pacers are playing hot right now. They're 9-2 in January, so it doesn't surprise me. They just put up their season high in points against us yesterday.
Well, and I think the Spurs on Thursday, to your point, kind of counter, Rob, they shot as a team 60% from the floor and 50% from three on Thursday. So the shoe was on the other foot. And one of my most prominent notes that I had about the game yesterday was that from the very jump, we saw why Rick Carlisle is a Hall of Fame coach and why Mitch Johnson is, on
interim.
Is an interim. Rick Carlisle coached circles around Mitch yesterday, and it started from the very beginning of the game where we saw the Pacers make a marked change. They were aggressive, seeking mismatches, and they attacked the paint when Wemby was away from the basket.
Yep.
And it got them off to a good start early. That and picking up full court And I want to get your guys' opinion on this because one thing that I really kind of noticed yesterday as a trend, the Spurs seem to have issues with backcourt high-energy guys. We saw it last week with Scottie Pippen Jr., and we saw it this week with T.J. McConnell. Those guys, that archetype gives the Spurs backcourt problems. And it's a little unsettling because that's just hustle.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, I agree. It's hustle, it's effort, it's all of that stuff. And we're giving up turnovers and we're allowing those quick athletic guys to just beat us back down court and get an easy transition bucket. And that was such a huge problem and a really pinnacle point of what was happening yesterday. 22 turnovers from us yesterday, and they had 36 points off those turnovers. That's the difference in the game right there.
Yeah.
If we limit those turnovers and play a little bit smarter, I think the game would have been completely different because we look at how many turnovers they had. They only had 10 turnovers, and we had 9 points off those turnovers. That's inexcusable.
22 has to be pushing a season high. I don't know if it is. I didn't do the hashtag research on that, but it has to be close.
That's terrible.
Yeah, and there was
So
one.
bad.
I don't remember who hit the three, but I remember in the first quarter, I was watching it pretty intently while cooking breakfast yesterday, and there was a 50-50 ball that T.J. McConnell hustled down in the corner, kicked it out. I think it was Halliburton, but it could have been Mathurin. Wide open three, and that's just kind of that. Those instances add up to what we saw yesterday in the final result.
I think for us, like we've always had issues with speedy, athletic backcourts, and you would think that someone like Steph Castle could come in and kind of mitigate that a little bit. And he looked good at times, but he's starting to become a volume shooter, and I don't know if I really like that at the moment because you look at some of his stats from some of the past games, and he's shooting like 20 shots, making 9 of them, and kind of getting to the line. But I feel bad for the kid because he gets hacked all the time going to the rack, and the refs just kind of turn a blind eye, and then someone else does it on the other end, and they call the same foul. So, I think for us, the week might have gotten to us by that second game, and with all the things that we've done, all the publicity that we did, it could have been just a long week where everyone kind of felt tired, and I don't say they phoned it in, but they definitely did not have the same energy as the first game. And that credit to the Pacers for kind of nipping that in the butt early and then making that huge lead at halftime.
Yeah. Have y'all ever seen Wemby as mad as he was yesterday in the third quarter with that missed call? I've never seen him that angry.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He was genuinely pissed off.
And and that wasn't the only thing. I was following Twitter as I normally do through the game, and Ty Yeager, who was one of my favorite Spurs Twitter followers, was calling it out the entire game. Just missed call after missed call after missed call on the drive. Now, that's not why they lost, to be clear.
Yeah.
But it didn't help.
No, it certainly didn't help. But all those missed calls aren't going to make up for the turnovers and the bad shooting and the bad defense and the poor shot selection and all of that because, 38-point loss just doesn't come out of nowhere.
It also like you look at some of the turnovers that we had, it was just guys doing too much. Like a lot of really like just simple plays, alley-oops, things like that should be automatic. They were just miscues and turnovers. I will say it was nice to see Mamu early in the lineup, and he made an impact on the game. You saw him in the second quarter come in. You saw him in the third quarter come in. And during those spurts, he looked very comfortable playing next to Wemby. And that alley-oop that he had with the Euro step and then just threw it up, that was fun to watch. But, let's see more of those rotations. And I'm kind of curious to see what happens here in the future because the reports are Pop's coming back in February.
Yeah.
That's like 2 weeks away. So
I hadn't heard that.
That was actually a report that came out yesterday saying that his schedule is February. That's his aimed target.
That's good. I mean, that's great to hear. One of the things that I noticed yesterday, and I watched the local broadcast, not the national broadcast.
Good call.
Is that they were in San Antonio. They were not in Paris.
Except for Sean Elliott.
Yeah, Sean Elliott was conducting the worst live television interview I've ever seen yesterday with some European player whose name escapes me. But TJ Ford getting some reps on the broadcast. Yes. I thought that was nice. I pointed it out. I was like, I don't know if I've heard a thicker Houston accent in a long time.
Right.
He's like, they got to get that ball into that.
Texas legend. But one thing that I found interesting, and I wanted to get y'all's take on it, was the Spurs, for a very young team, tend to do really well with 2 or more days rest. They are 8-0 this season with 2 or more days rest. Yep. Does that surprise y'all a little bit, being as young as they are, that they would need that much rest to be that much better?
I don't know if that's actually an indication of us being a much better team when well rested, or if that's just too small of a sample size to really understand what that means. But at the same time, yeah, it is a little surprising. You'd think that we'd be a team that would respond well to a back-to-back, given the fact we have such young legs and we have guys that are kind of wanting to prove themselves. But yeah, I'm a little surprised at that. That's kind of interesting.
Well, I think it's to your point, AJ, about
mostly preparation.
Yeah,
it's preparation. It's just being able to watch film, dissect it, and then go do it on the court, and that's what we've been able to do. But then you make just perfect example with these 2 Pacer games. Once they had tape on us, it was over. And once you're able to figure out how to beat us, and basically it's the old school mentality of let the superstar get the superstar points and stats. Let's shut down everyone else because they can't beat us. And that's exactly what happened. So,
yeah,
Well, and there was a couple other things that happened yesterday that I felt I hadn't really seen all season long. I didn't really feel Wembanyama's rim protection nearly as much as I have other games, because whenever I'm looking at Miles Turner with 3 blocks and Pascal Siakam with 3 blocks, they were just as active, if not more active, on the rim protection side as Wemby. So I think that played into our ultimate demise as well. We need Wemby putting up those 3, 4, 5 block games to deter the offense from really wanting to enter the lane.
Yeah. And I think the Pacers did a good job of hunting mismatches early in that game to draw Wemby away from the rim so they could attack more freely. I think that goes to Rick Carlisle, like I said, being a future Hall of Fame coach, that he saw something from the film in that first game that he saw that he could exploit, and clearly it worked out. Yeah.
I'm just hoping that the Spurs here in the next couple weeks can make a move like the Indiana Pacers did to get a Siakam. Was it last year, a couple years ago? I do see the Spurs kind of getting to that next level where the Pacers are right now, and I would love to see us be kind of in that same tier as them. Hopefully by the end of the season, maybe early next season. But from the looks of it, from the rumors and the conversations, it sounds like we're just going to sit on our hands for the trade deadline. But
yeah, we shouldn't let a slow start to their season forget that the Pacers were in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. That's a good team.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a solid squad.
Dude, Tyrese Halliburton is a stud. I don't care what anyone says. He got drafted after Devin Vassell. It doesn't matter. I'm sorry. I got on a Twitter battle, and I'm still just really upset about it because Spurs fans are so fickle, and that's it might be a dunk that I do. I have so many dunks, you have no idea, guys. But Spurs fans are so fickle. They see a game that gets out of hand, we win by 30, and they're wanting we're going to win the Western Conference, guys. Here we go. Here's the turn. And then you see this game and we lost by 38. Come on, guys. Our January record is dog shit. What is it, 4-10 or something like that? I mean, it's bad.
And we knew that was a possibility. I remember talking about it a couple episodes back. We were looking down the schedule. We saw 2 against the Lakers, 2 against the Grizzlies, the Bucks, the Heat. We anticipated that this could be happening right now. Unfortunately, it came to fruition.
Yeah. I mean, and now the rodeo road trip.
Yeah.
Oof.
So
You've got a couple of get-right games.
Yeah, we got some more hurdles on the way, but I still feel like we're playing good basketball. I think that there's enough silver linings within the way that we're playing right now, where I still feel really positive. But to your point, AJ, I think I would like us to go out there and get a piece that just helps, that just adds a little bit of solidarity right now. And I was kind of thinking about something we were talking about on a previous episode where we're combing the buyout market, where we really, just try to figure out who we could bring in our team where maybe they don't have that much left on their contract. Maybe it's a friendly deal. I want to go after a guy that we've already had before. I want to bring back Jakob Pertl.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that would be huge.
I actually want to bring back Jakob. He's putting up 14 and 10 this season, and we already know he's an efficient scorer around the basket, not really going to command his shot too much. We know that he can be a really good secondary rim protector for so many reasons. I think that kind of a deal makes sense. He's making $19 million a year next season, and then he is an unrestricted free agent. So I think that there's not a whole lot left on his deal, and it could be a low risk kind of guy that knows what San Antonio's like.
And we know the Raptors aren't trying to win games right now.
Exactly.
It would be an immense upgrade when you look at Zach Collins and Charles Bassey if you bring in Jakob Pertl. Just like you said, 14 and 10. We don't have a guy that could really sniff those numbers on our bench. So
Not named Wemby.
I think that's a great pull, honestly, from whether it's the buyout market or a trade that you do over the next couple of weeks. That's an ideal name.
Yeah. And I mean, it was nice to see Jeremy Sohan in the starting lineup again. It was cool to see him, but you could tell in that second game he just does not have his legs right now. Yeah. And we really need him to kind of turn that corner and get back to basketball shape. But I still think his blue hair and all his color hair is stupid. But that's a different story. I just want him to be normal. I like his stuff, but if we're relying on Jeremy Sohan to be our number 2 or our number 3 or whatever, we're not going to win too many games with that.
No, Jeremy is the glue guy. He's the glue guy, and that's an important role. But like you said, AJ, he's not the number 2, number 3 scoring option. He's the ugly job, the dirty jobs guy.
He's the dirty guy.
Right. I mean, and we felt that impact that first game against the Pacers. Mm-hmm. He only played 18 minutes, went 6 for 9, and was really, really slashing, getting a lot of rebounds. That's the kind of effort that we need. We're not going to really ask him to lead us in scoring night in, night out, but, we may need him to go snag 15 rebounds and keep a couple of other people out of the paint. We may need that in order to win some tough Western Conference games.
Yeah, I think you have your starting front court of the future with Wemby and Sohan. Now it's depth so that you can plug and play other pieces next to them, rest them, make sure they're healthy. With Sohan having a back injury, that's a little scary because we know how backs can be. I think he is, at this point, obviously Wemby's the best player, but the team kind of goes as Sohan goes. If he has a good game, they have a better chance of winning. It's just look at the game log.
Yeah, it seems like when Sohan has a great game, just being involved, then you see a 20-point game from Vassell. You see a 15-point, 20-point game from Keldon Johnson. You see Chris Paul getting double-digit assists, things of that nature. I mean, we can't – I love Chris Paul. I love Harrison Barnes, but we can't rely on them to be the point scorers. Harrison Barnes' ceiling, points-wise, is 14, 15, 16 points, give or take. He might hit 20 because he hit an extra three-pointer. But outside of that, we need guys to continue to score and continue to make that ascension. And it just feels like we've plateaued recently. And, hopefully the road trip shows some team chemistry and we start to mold a little more. I mean, that's something that we've always done in years past, especially now that we've gone overseas for an entire week and a half. Maybe they're playing Clash of Clans together or something. I don't know, but just something to get this team kind of fired up. And hell, maybe Pop coming back is that spark to end the season. So just something needs to happen, because right now we're in this really weird lull, and I don't want this team to get more uglier as the year goes on, because that's when things get really frustrating. That's when we see more outbursts by Victor, and that's when we start to go, maybe he does end up as a Knick, or maybe he does go to LA, and that would be really rough to watch, because we've seen it happen. We've seen it happen.
I think Spurs fans are understandably traumatized a little bit, but I think we're a little too early there. I think Vic wants to be here first and foremost, and I think that's important. Now, I heard Stephen A. Smith say something earlier this week, and normally I disregard what he says.
We're quoting Stephen A. Smith.
But he was actually making a case for...
Wait, when you say your quote, I want you to do your best Stephen A. Smith.
Oh, no, I'm not quoting him directly. But he was making a case for Wemby as an all-star starter.
Yeah.
And Rob, to your point, or Rob or AJ, to your point, with the veterans coming in, guys like Chris Paul, guys like Harrison Barnes, they are floor raisers. And Stephen A's point was that the Spurs have won 20 games. They've won almost as many games as they have the past 2 years entirely. So when you bring in floor raisers, that is going to happen. You're going to win more games just naturally because your team is better constructed. But the work left to do is still very apparent. And I look at the Thunder and the Rockets as examples for the Spurs to follow. Those are the rebuilds that they're kind of on track with. Last year, through 60 games, the Rockets were 8 games under 500. If that happens to the Spurs this year, the calculus might be different. With the draft class coming in that is coming in, you might see some front office decisions that might upset you a little bit to this point in the season, where they might not be incentivized to win games later in the year. And that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
Because in the long run, it will benefit them. It's not exactly apples to apples comparison.
Yeah, but to counter that, you also don't want to be stuck in purgatory.
No.
Where you're getting 15, 16, 17th picks, and you're just kind of getting guys that are, not really game changers, but more of just really solid role players maybe, or they just burn out in their third year. So that's one thing I just want to avoid, because that's one thing that we were really good at in years past when we were winning championships. So we were able to find good guys at the end of the first round that were able to contribute. But when we got into that purgatory, I guess, rounds in the middle of the first round, that's when we got guys like a Josh Primo. That's when we got guys that, we traded for Kawhi Leonard, and we saw what happened there. So I'm a little hesitant to start being in that tanking realm, because I don't want to be in that weird where those late first round picks just don't contribute.
Oh, it's not fully tanking, but I'm just saying, if you get
tanking
to a point
with style,
where you're 60 games into the season and you're 9 games under 500, or close to that, your incentive might not be to finish 500. It might be to win 32 games instead.
Yeah.
So it's just
of course not.
Because, and I mentioned this in the group text yesterday, there has been one 30-point game from somebody other than Wemby this season, and it was a game that Wemby did not play. When Wemby has played, nobody has scored more than 26 points. Nobody else has scored more than 26 points. That speaks to a huge talent deficiency.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you need somebody that can go out and create offense on their own, because you have a guy that is absorbing so much of the defense. So much of the defense is looking right at Wemby, especially when he puts the ball on the floor. You have 4 guys that are really just just literally gravitating towards him, and if you are somebody that can't create enough space to get your own shot off and randomly drop a 30 piece, then you're not deserving of being our second option. And we've been saying it episode in, episode out. We still don't have our true second offensive scoring option.
No, and you see that too with Victor. Like, watching the game yesterday, I saw more yesterday than I have in any other game. Victor looked gassed. I mean, gassed. And it was like probably in the second quarter. And he was just like really hustling out there. And he's playing both ends with his heart out, especially in France. And he just looked like a guy that was just exhausted from everything. And if he's going to start, if he's starting to hit that wall where his conditioning, because he's playing so hard on both ends, then yeah, it's more apparent than ever that we need that second guy or just another big to help out. And I think Jakob Porter will be perfect.
You hit the nail on the head right there with that second point. It's that big that can absorb the contact. And we were talking about this even back at the Miami game. Whenever, like, that very first couple of possessions, Wemby looked tired right out of the gate. And I was like, what's going on here? The game just started. And it was like, oh, shit. And then I saw the very next play, Bam was pushing him out, and Wemby was having to kind of fight him a little bit more. And I was like, not every single big in the NBA does that to Wemby, but Bam is a little bit more athletic, a little bit more agile. He can kind of get under you a little bit. And he is that kind of big that's going to frustrate you a little bit. And so, like, whenever I look at it from that lens, we need that kind of secondary big that can kind of be an enforcer, absorb some of that contact, and alleviate some of that stress from Victor.
Well, and I think the Spurs were so good when they were winning championships because they had guys that could take the load off in the regular season of their stars. You know, you can make fun of Matt Bonner all you want, but he was a guy that you could throw in there, play 20 minutes, take Tim Duncan off the floor, and get away with it. And that's the kind of guy that they need, like Jakob, like, you know, name any other
Francisco Elson.
number of guys, capable guys that could come in, eat 15, 20 minutes a night, and save Wemby's legs for the later games, for the runs that matter.
Matt Bonner had 12 points, 4 rebounds, and like 5 fouls against Shaq, and it was so much fun to watch.
Do you guys think that Pop's impending return could prompt more aggressiveness from the front office, saying that, you know, Pop is in his golden years as a coach? We need to go all out. Do you think that could be in the minds of the
golden years is a stretch, office? Dude. I think the golden years are behind. He's in his
Twilight.
Yeah, that's a better way to put it.
I think of Mariano Rivera, right? Because legend, he was going to retire. It was his last season. And then all of a sudden, he tears his ACL shagging fly balls in Kansas City during batting practice. And it's like, no, I'm not going to go out like that. Rehabs, comes back, and finishes on his own terms. I'm wondering, you know, Pop's not going to go out like that. He's going to go out on his own terms. I think the front office owes it to Pop to give him a competitive team to go out with.
That's fair enough. If an organization was to do that for any coach in all of organized sports, it would be the Spurs doing that for Popovich because of the respect, the loyalty, the longevity, all of that. So from that perspective, I could see us doing something like that. But we're also frugal as fuck over here in San Antonio. We're not just splurging for any kind of player, especially if it's a big name guy.
And that's why it would be so out of the norm. But again, a guy like Pop doesn't come around very often. So, you know, when he's on his way out, I think you have more incentive to, you know, let's get one more for the Gipper, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't disagree. I think that would be great to see, but, you know, it depends on how, I'm very curious to see how Pop looks when he comes back, and is he going to be able to be energetic? Is he going to be able to walk up and down? Is he going to get into a ref's face when they're not calling fouls on Steph Castle? Like, I'm really worried about his energy and just kind of his, I guess, no, what's the word I'm looking for? These mimosas, man.
Well, Rob, you know the Spurs probably better than anybody, having played on that summer structure. So, I mean, can you speak to a little bit of that thinking of whether, you know, Pop would even bother to come back if he couldn't?
I mean, Pop's going to want to coach if he can coach to his fullest extent, but at the same time, if Coach Pop is on that sideline and he's making decisions, we're not getting out coached like we did yesterday. So
bingo.
those little runs, the 11-0 run, the 17-0 run, those are stopping at 7-0, 7-0 runs, and we're calling a timeout, killing that momentum, reorganizing what we're doing. And that happens even if we have Pop at 80% on the sideline, because Pop he knows those moments like the back of his fucking hand. He's done it for almost 3 decades. But at the same time, I only want him out there if he wants to be out there. Yeah. I really, I mean, that was an excellent point you brought up, James, with Mariano Rivera. It's like, if he wants to go out on his own terms and he wants to will and fight through that, absolutely. But I don't want to see Pop like struggling and like seeing him like just literally aching to get up off the bench to go address the players. Like, man, that would just really kill me inside to see that.
Perhaps Cam would be the best guy to know this personally, but I don't think Pop would want to come back if he was doing that. I think if he didn't think he could put his full physical self into it and mental self into it, I don't think he's the kind of guy that would come back. I think he would view that as a disservice to the team and the organization.
Yeah, that's very true. I also view him as just one of those like savants where it's almost like, and damn it, I hate to phrase it like this, but like I think about like some of like my favorite, film directors. Like I think about like Stanley Kubrick, like whenever he finished filming Eyes Wide Shut, he literally died 2 weeks later because he was like, this is my last film. I'm not going to make films anymore. I don't have a reason to be around, and like I just don't want that to be Coach Pop. I just don't want to see him go out like that.
Bear Bryant, Joe Paterno, those guys stopped coaching 6 months later or less. They were dead.
Yeah.
It's that same kind of thing. But I think Pop knows himself very well. And again, I don't think he would be pushing to come back if he wasn't ready to put his full self into it. That's just my 2 cents on the matter.
I mean, it seems like Manu is always around, so if he wants to get a first row seat right next to the players, I wouldn't hate it.
For the love of God, Mitch Johnson, call a timeout 10 seconds into a quarter.
That's the big thing. That's he just does. I think Mitch is a decent coach. I think at some point he'll find himself as a head coach in some capacity somewhere. But the biggest thing that he needs to learn is, if you don't have any timeouts at the end of the game, it's okay, because you needed to stop the bleeding early. And these guys are veterans enough, especially when you have a guy like Chris Paul that can, find ways to call a timeout, maybe like, hey, bump me kind of thing. But just bump me. Like, we need to find ways to end these big runs, because it's not the first time we've given up huge runs. I mean, you can go back to early in the season, we were still giving up 18-0 runs.
It's an issue going back to last season.
Yeah,
honestly.
we just got to get better. So I'm hoping guys like Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes can kind of push us over the edge, and same thing with Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson. But I mean, Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell, they don't know what winning is. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if Keldon Johnson or Devin Vassell has ever been on a winning team. Like, at the end of the season, do they have winning records on their career? I don't think so. They've always been under 500. So I think that's something that we just need to learn how to win. And once we do that, then it kind of like all goes into place, because you see like the Indiana Pacers, like the Dallas Mavericks, who found themselves in the conference finals because they figured out ways to win. And once they got over that hump, then they're like, all right, we never want to go back. And I mean, last time I heard, Chris Paul's addicted to the NBA Finals, and I want him to relapse really bad. So we'll see.
He ain't been back since. So I wonder if he gave that up.
The thing about the NBA that we see time and again is that Rome is not built in a day. You have to learn how to lose at every phase, whether it be as a team building, and then once you get into the playoffs, it's very rare that you see a team go from first round exit to championship. You have to learn to lose in the second round or conference finals. It's a process, and they'll get there. I'm confident that they will get there, but we're just seeing it all play out right now. And thank God we're not Sixers fans. They lived with a real process.
Yeah. And they're not looking good at all, dude.
No.
Paul George is, I mean, he had that one outburst game with him and Maxey, I think combining for like 59 points or something. But outside of that, dude, it's pastime P at this point.
Yeah.
So he's just not the dude. But man, you know what? I'd be remiss if we didn't kind of take a pause from the Spurs and talk about homeboy in Miami for a second. And that's Jimmy Butler. Apparently he's coming back. And I don't know what that's going to look like. This is a weird situation. We see the reports. He's been very vocal about it. Pat Riley doesn't like him anymore, and they can't find a trade. And the Suns just made that trade for 3 first-rounders. I don't know if that even happens and he ends up, but what do you think is going to happen with Jimmy Butler?
I don't think Jimmy Butler is going to be on the Miami Heat next weekend. I think that they are going to move him for literally fucking anything. They're going to throw him out a couple of games this week. Hopefully he has a good game. They're going to try to put on their biggest smile and say, things are going well with Jimmy. Look how good he just did. And then they're going to try to get as much as they can, because literally you can't just keep paying him. You can't just let him keep sit. You can't just, have him sit on the bench and then get nothing for him later on down the line. That would be the worst case scenario. But whenever the organization is using terms like he's displaying conduct that's detrimental to the team and patterns of complete disrespect and disregard for the rules, it's like, how do you go back from that?
Yeah.
Like how do you backpedal from that? You can't.
It's such a fascinating situation because of that organization, because of Pat Riley. That organization is kind of what the Spurs are viewed as back a decade ago when they were still winning championships. And Pat Riley is so proud of everything. The way he looks at it is, I've won everywhere that I've been, and the only commonality in all of these situations is me. And
in my hair.
And, he does not have the time to do this with Jimmy Butler anymore. So it's going to be really interesting to see how a proud organization handles a proud player.
All I know is that I saw the report, I think this morning or yesterday, and it was Jimmy Butler had the team waiting on the tarmac in the plane to go to their next game. And as someone who traveled yesterday, if we were waiting on one person for hours on the tarmac, that person's getting choked out next time I see them, because I ain't got time to wait for you. And the fact that they were trying to hit him up and say, hey, you coming, and then it took hours to get a hold of him, yeah, that relationship's done. It is done. There's no coming back. Don't call me for a booty call. We just need someone to come in and replace him, because it's over. And the problem is you got a Jimmy Butler who has 1 year on his contract or something along those lines, and you got to find that perfect fit. Otherwise, a 35-year-old Jimmy Butler's a free agent, and you have nothing to show for it.
Well, and I think they could hypothetically bring him back next year. So it's like, the Heat say they like discomfort. When Jimmy wanted to fight Spo last year, they played it off and said like, oh, we love that, and contempt breeds success, all that kind of shit that they say out there in Miami.
Cocaine.
But,
yeah.
It's a real nightmare situation for them, I think, because it's a who's going to blink first, and the Heat, whether they know it now or not, they have to blink first, because otherwise there's just dead potential over there, and that's a roster that has some pieces, can compete if they get Jimmy out of there and formulate a plan. They've shown in their history that they can turn things around quickly.
Right. If all you get for Jimmy is a role player and a first round pick, and you're like, fuck, we got fleeced for an all-star level player, It doesn't matter.
Go buy another one.
Get him off your fucking books immediately and get whatever solid piece you can, because you have guys that have stepped up this year. Tyler Hero looks like he's ready to take on that scoring load
For sure.
that Jimmy maybe isn't wanting to carry anymore. So I think you got some pieces.
You're also Miami. You're also Miami.
Yeah.
Go in free agency and get the next superstar, because you guys are Miami. Once you bring a free agent down to like pitch them, it's game over. Like you're not losing that battle many times, and you can easily do that. But I would love for the Spurs to get involved in some capacity, whether that's we get an extra pick or we offload one of our players or something along those lines. If we can facilitate maybe there's a 4-team trade, and we can iron out all the details in the past or in the future. I mean, I wouldn't hate it if we got involved and all of a sudden Bam shows up in silver and black. That would be kind of cool. Not possible, but in 2K I can make it happen.
Oh my gosh, that would be wild. Our front court, that would be the best defensive front court since Tim and David.
And then then that's when you can have a Devin Vassell that doesn't have to score all the time, and then he looks really good in those kind of roles. But I mean, it'd be fun to watch, but not going to happen.
Yeah, well, that's the interesting thing as well is the Heat historically they don't tank.
No.
And so trading for picks for them might be more of a non-starter. I think they've got a guy they really like in Khalil Ware. And I think they can see a future where they build around Khalil Ware, Tyler Hero, Nikola Jovic. You might see Bam become expendable down the road, but that's just, I think, one of the more interesting situations the league has seen in the past 5 years, honestly.
For sure. And then on the other side, you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis asking for more help. And I just can't help but to chuckle because, dude, you guys have help. Your team's there. You have options. The problem is your dumbass drafted your son in the second round, and you're paying him $7 million. Like you're stupid. Like I don't want to hear LeBron James asking for help anymore. This is getting out of control. You've had help in your entire career, and now you're going, I need more help, dude. You have Anthony Davis next to you. Figure it the fuck out. I'm sorry. Like, I'm tired of LeBron James continuing to ask for help when he's the reason why they need help.
Right. I mean, he does this all the time. He's always asking for help, always asking for another player. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, they traded away all of their young potential in order to get the guy, in order to get him and Anthony Davis. So it's like, whenever I'm looking at it through that lens, it's like, the Lakers had an opportunity to have a young budding core and chose the exact opposite. And so you can't want both of those sides of the same coin.
We need more help, and you just got rid of D'Lo. Like, what the fuck?
Well, D'Lo isn't super help, but they won a title in 2020 and then decided they're still feeling the Russell Westbrook choice. They decided that they wanted Russell Westbrook and that old star power rather than those young guys that help them win a championship. And I think, you see these situations right now. We were talking about Miami. That is an A-plus tier organization. And you see the opposite with the Lakers. From ownership down, it's a clown show.
It's the Cowboys.
It is. And they're lucky they have the location and the brand, because that is the only thing that has saved them over the past 10 to 15 years, and it's the only thing that will continue to save them going forward.
And then you look at Russell Westbrook now, he looks like he's 28 years old again. Like, that dude looks like he's revitalized. He is here. He's definitely made everyone in Denver, their life way easier, because he's now playing like old school Russell Westbrook style. And it's fun to watch. They got their ass kicked yesterday. I watched that in Spanish too. But the thing is like, you see these people that play with LeBron James and then turn around and just have like all these great post LeBron James seasons. I mean, to me, if you're LeBron James, like, you gotta look in the mirror and say, I'm the cause of all this. And I've talked about this in past episodes. When you're salary is so top heavy, you have no way to kind of help that on your team because you're being paid a shit ton of money. Anthony Davis being paid a shit ton of money, and then there's this huge gap of nothing, and then it's like somebody's getting paid maybe $15 million, and so you can't build a team when you have so much disparity in your salary cap. So at the end of the day, it's him. It's him.
Well, that is an important point because we've seen two sides of superstars where, people criticized Kobe for back in the day for doing the same exact thing. He was the highest paid player in the league, and it was towards the very end of his career, and it was like, is Kobe really worth all of that money like he used to be? But he was like, you know what? I'm Kobe Bryant. I'm worth that money. And you had guys like Tim Duncan and Dirk who were like, hey, I'm willing to take a little bit more team-friendly deals to ensure that we have role players to make my time worthwhile. And I think that's just two different kinds of superstars, and we're seeing that kind of play out.
James, who's the highest paid quarterback in the NFL? Do you know?
It's not who it should be.
And who should it be?
It should be probably someone that's playing today.
Yeah. The one that's on 2 Super Bowl?
I'm pretty sure that it's not anybody that's playing today. And I think with Westbrook specifically, you're seeing the Jokic effect.
Yes.
I think we might be seeing the best offensive basketball player ever right now in Denver. I know Michael Jordan exists. I think Nikola Jokic is a better offensive player than Michael Jordan ever was. And I think the stats back that up. And, Russell Westbrook has revitalized his career because playing with Jokic does that. The gravity of that, he moves the floor. He bends the geometry of the game in a way like Wemby will, where it opens the floor for a limited player like Russ who can't really shoot. He can do all those cuts and drives that he couldn't really do in a place like LA where you had LeBron, but LeBron's dynamicism, athleticism, whatever, was so much different. His gravity was different than Jokic's gravity. Jokic manipulates the floor with or without the ball. And LeBron and Westbrook were too similar, I think, to play off each other in that way. And so, mainly I say that because I wanted to give Nikola Jokic his flowers. This has been perhaps the best offensive season ever. I think he's 30, 13, and 10, something like that.
Jesus Christ.
So
and the efficiency for me is the thing that is also just bonkers because he's among the league leaders in efficiency for 2-pointers, and there's been a large stretches of the season where he's led the league in 3-point percentage too.
Yeah,
and so you're putting up a 30-point triple-double as a center, being the best facilitator, averaging the most assists any center has ever averaged in NBA history. And you're doing it at an alarming, efficient clip.
He's been he's been near 50% from 3 for most of the season on 5 attempts a game.
Yep.
And then he's knocking down 3-4 shots like it's nothing. Dude, that shot was. Can we take a pause? Let's. We are definitely a pro Jokic show for sure. 100%. Everyone knows that Denver's my second team, but that 3/4 heave that he put up was so nonchalant, and then he made it, and he was like, cool.
I expected to make it.
Yeah, he was like, cool, but tell me about my quarter horse.
Now, AJ, you touched on it a little earlier. Rob, I want to get your opinion because it was one of my notes. The future in Philly. I brought it up in the group chat. Do you think they should tank the rest of the season? Just sit Embiid, sit Paul George, and maybe even move off of those guys in the offseason?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're Philly, yes. I think you have to realize we made a mistake bringing Paul George here. That was a grenade that blew up pretty quickly. You realize the fans aren't having it. The organization isn't clicking as quickly as you should when you bring in a multiple-time All-Star, and you're seeing him just kind of fall apart a little bit. His knee hyperextended 2 times within like a month and a half. It just doesn't look like Paul George is really able to handle that workload. So I think, you got to blow things up quicker rather than later. But I also think Philly is an organization that has consistently shot themselves in the foot over the years. So if I'm really guessing as to what Philly's going to do, I think they're going to keep Paul George. They're going to keep building around both he and Embiid, keep praying that it's going to work out, and I think that they're going to continue to shit the bed for the next 5 years.
Yeah. They're going to fire the coach, blame him. They're going to get rid of some stupid people, and at the end of the day, we all know who's pulling the strings in Philadelphia, and he's the one is why they're so bad this year, and that's Daryl Morey.
And that's a shame because, if I think they've won 16 games. They're 11th in the East right now. If they committed to a tank, they could have a legit shot, I think, at the number 1 pick. And if you looked at a potential of, Cooper Flagg or Ace Bailey with Tyrese Maxey for the next 10, 15 years, that's, I think, better than they've looked in the past couple seasons.
Oh, yeah.
And, I think that's something that they have to pay attention to. Also, I don't know if y'all knew this, Josh Harris, the owner of the Sixers, he owns the Commanders as well. Don't let the Commanders get into the Super Bowl before the Sixers see a conference final.
Ooh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Don't let that happen because those Philly fans will throw all sorts of things.
Yeah, I mean,
I saw those Philly fans drop some C words to random Packers fans. I know how they can get.
Oh, dude, Philly fans are fucking brutal, man.
I'm an Eagles fan myself. I've never been to Philadelphia, but I mean, I will shit on them because.
Oh, dude, like whenever I would go to Philly to visit my brother, you just mention that you're from Texas. Like you don't even like I'm not even saying I'm a Cowboys fan. I just be like, oh yeah, I'm from Texas, and they'd be like, oh yeah, and it'd just be like kind of like, oh, okay, and they're like what the fuck, dude? I don't even really like football like that, and you're just kind of sizing me up. I'm like,
you're like, oh yeah, Jerry Jones, huh?
Yeah,
Birds.
like, you
Go Birds.
sensitive ass Eagles fans. No, I'm just kidding.
Also, while we're going around the league. I think I might need to eat crow for something I said on my first podcast about the Kings.
Oh yeah. Well, all right. Hold on, James. Before you go on, this was like right off to the heels of them firing Mike Brown. So like we didn't know Christie was like this magical genius that can revitalize an organization.
They've lost a couple in a row, but they are 10-4 since the coaching change. And have rocketed all the way up to, I think, from 12th to 7th in the West. So, your boy was wrong on that, or at least has been to this point.
They're back down to 10th, though.
Now, shouts out to the Kings. You know what? If I'm wrong, you prove me wrong. And if I'm right, hey, maybe we'll get De'Aaron Fox out of it.
So there we go.
Well, it's about that time.
I do have one more quick thing I wanted to bring up and just kind of ask y'all if this is an idea that if y'all would be messing with this idea. A Baseline Bums basketball book club where we read a basketball book and we discuss it and we see if our listeners, followers would be down to kind of go on that journey with us and talk about the book.
I think that'd be a fun off-season project.
Can we do?
I think so too.
I think that'd be great. Can I recommend the first book?
Sure.
So the first book, in my opinion, should be the Coyote book, where the old Coyote guy who was there for like 20 years or something. He wrote a book. I have it, and I've read like maybe I've read half of it, I should say. And it's phenomenal. It's really, really good. He gives a lot of in-depth on like what he did before. He was at SeaWorld before, and then he became the Coyote and how grueling it was. And he's just a really unique guy. I can't remember the name. I can't remember the book. But I'm going to throw that out. That should be our number one if we do book clubs.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I would like the idea of a book club. There's a book that I've been meaning to read for a while called Pipeline to the Pros. And it talks about like the D3 pipeline to NBA front offices and coaches. So I've been meaning to get into that for a while, but I think that might be a good one as well.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I've been reading the Basketball 100, and it's it's been really
thick.
Oh, dude, yeah, this thing is thick. And so yeah, I've really been just wanting to hey, that would be kind of cool to talk about the book with other people who are kind of going through it, and so I think if we were able to kind of all decide on a book and just read it and see if we can get other people involved, that would be kind of cool.
More power to you. I cannot pick up a book and physically read it. I need the audio book. It's just, for some reason, reading is daunting to me and listening isn't. So
that makes sense.
You fucking millennial.
But yeah, just a random idea before we dunk.
Yams.
Who we dunking on? James, start us off with a dunk.
I appreciate the vine. One thing that I am passionate about that I love in life is cookies. I love
Fair. I like cookies too.
Whether it's eating them, baking them. I'm shockingly a good baker. I know y'all might not think that, but my dunk this week is crumble cookies.
Oh no, we're never going to get sponsored by Crumble now.
Everybody's favorite. Don't get me wrong. I love Crumble. I still do. However, I think they've forgotten their name is Crumble Cookie. You look at their lineups, and every week it's cakes and pies and all this other bullshit that I'm not trying to eat. I want cookies. And also, your flavor combinations are whack. Like most of the time you're giving us these fruit flavored combinations or pumpkin spice, whatever. I don't want that. And also, last but not least, sorry, they rotate their chocolate chip cookies. They have a milk chocolate chip and a semi-sweet chocolate chip. I don't know if y'all have tried this. I don't know if y'all have noticed it. The milk chocolate chip, the original OG, is ass. The semi-sweet is where it's at. It's the best chocolate chip cookie I've had. And they alternate. I'm like, why? Give the people what they want. There are so many there are so many trendy cookie places out there now. Hey, Tiff's Treats. I go to Cookie Plug. I go anywhere else I want. Insomnia, I can get whatever, whenever. But with Crumble, I've got to hope their lineup is good and not filled with cakes and pies and things that aren't cookies.
And you can't get it on Sundays.
And I can't get it on Sundays because, well, you know what? I won't deal with that. It's religious. We let them be. But if I can't make my dunks political, which I don't want to do, I'm dunking on Crumble. Get your shit together and figure out what you were.
Damn, dude, that's a funny ass dunk, dude. You were essentially at the beginning like, dude, I'm tired of them playing small ball lineup. Get these big man cookies in there.
Give the people what they want. The people want good cookies. You don't want a lemon poppy seed cookie. Who wants that?
Oh my god, I love it. Get those shit cookies out of here. Oh my god!
I can't top that.
I'm glad that I made y'all laugh. I was worried because I was like, "There's nothing to dunk on this week."
Oh, bro.
No, clearly there was.
No, that's solid. You've done your cookie research, and that's
James is like that fucking pink box.
And that's the way the cookie crumbles. AJ, what do you got?
Hold on, I gotta regroup. I wasn't ready for that one. This is definitely my favorite segment. I'm glad we do it at the end. Okay. All right, so I have a handful of dunks I need to get to because I traveled yesterday, and I understand that not a lot of people travel, and I totally get that. Couple things. So in DFW and in Houston, they have this thing called a parking spot where you can park off premise. You jump into a shuttle, and they'll take you to the airport. It's like half the price of paying on premise. It's a great concept. The problem with it is when you're trying to catch an international flight, your bags need to be there an hour before you get there. So, for me and my wife, we got there with plenty of time. Someone was coming to come pick us up, and the girl was like, "Oh no, we got someone else coming for you." And we're like, "All right, cool, whatever." And keep in mind, it's like 4:30 in the morning or whatever it is. Cool, no problem. 4:40 came around, 4:45 came around, 4:50 came around, and now we're going, I don't know if we're going to be able to make this flight. Or we'll make the flight, but our bags won't be able to get on the plane because you need to be there an hour before. So now we're freaking out. I'm stressed out. We finally get picked up because we were flashing our lights and waving them down. And the guy was like, "Oh, she was supposed to take you." So I'm going to dunk on that driver from the parking spot for not picking us up and making me stress out before we even got onto the plane. Now, my second dunk, I have a lot of, I'm sorry guys, I'm going to take over.
So this is a back dunk.
Yeah, no, this is dunk contest, dog. So the second dunk for me is when you get on the plane, and like I said, I understand not everyone's a pro at traveling. I understand. I get it. My second dunk is when you get on the plane and you have your backpack and your carry-on and you're shuffling through the middle row, there's people behind you. You got people behind you. And one, when you put your carry-on into the overhead bin, line it up. Put it up on its side. Don't flatten it out. Put it on its side so everyone else can put their thing on there. Put it up. That's how you do it. You don't flatten it, up. So now you can fit more bags in the overhead bin. So I'm not having to put my shit 2 rows down. And then also, there's people behind you. So let's get this thing moving. I ain't got time for me to wait. It just drives me absolutely off the wall. So that's my second dunk. My third dunk, got one more. My third dunk is these wristbands. These are VIP wristbands. We got VIP wristbands. Don't give me the regular wristbands. Better recognize when we come in. So we had to go back and like get these things knocked out and whatever. It took 15, 20 minutes. So anyway, I got those are my 3 dunks. I made it to the championship, but I probably lost in the finals. So, Rob, who you dunking on?
There we go. So, like, international travel in general, dunk. Just absolute.
Yeah, international travel, dunk on everybody. You're in my way. Get out of my way. I know what I'm doing. Just let it happen.
The airline industrial complex, you been yammed on.
Yeah, you got yammed on. Honestly, like, I think I'm just gonna yam on some good old fundamentals because I've been like just watching basketball this season. Like, does anyone know how to fucking come off of a screen like anymore? Like no. I'm really wondering, like, as somebody that like I had so many screens set for me, and I was like, okay, if I come off of this screen and essentially hug that guy's shoulder, my defender's getting cut off. I'm going to be way more open. I'm going to have room for a shot. I'm going to get to go to the basket.
Yep.
I don't see anybody do that nowadays. It's like they want to take a tough shot. They want that defender to get over there, get a hand up so I can make a tough bucket. So it's like, dude, I don't give a fuck about how tough of a shot that you can hit. I just want to see that you can come off that screen, create some separation. I'm seeing the Spurs do it, but then I've also seen, yes, Devin Vassell does it all the fucking time. But at the same time, I see so many guys around the league do it. I've seen LaMelo Ball do it time and time again. Donovan Mitchell is he is the fucking king at doing that. Just using the littlest portion of a screen you possibly can. And I'm like, wow, if these guys just actually used a screen and used it the proper way, you'd get so much more open. And honestly, when it comes to the Spurs, we don't have a lot of really great screen setters. So like I'm not really looking at it like
there's no Tiago splitter.
Right. I mean, we don't have somebody that's going to set those like Steven Adams type screens, but at the same time, man, even if it's Mamu, even if it's Bassie, even if it's, little skinny Wemby out there, you should be able to use that screen better. So
Stop
fuck
slipping.
it.
Stop slipping.
God damn it. Use a fucking screen.
If I was a big in today's NBA, that would be like my number one pet peeve because you're setting me up to be in foul trouble.
Yeah.
Yes.
Every time.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you're going to complain that I'm not ready to roll. And you know what? The pick has to happen so the roll or the pop can happen effectively because you got to have that defender hang just for a split second. So if that doesn't happen, you're not going to be open on the roll or the pop. So it's like, dude, you as the screener, yeah, I agree, James. You need to be just hammering that home.
And like you, with your basketball experience, you've got experience coming off of and setting screens. So you know from both perspectives how that's supposed to work.
Oh, yeah. It's
From
really
experience.
nice. It's really nice when you get a good screen set and you can just be like, all right, I have, I can create my own shot. And I got
from
time.
experience, Rob sets the best screens. Just saying. Rob is fantastic. And then you little slip and he's like right there.
All my screens move.
Dude, great dunk. I need more fundamentals regardless. That's why Europeans are taking over because they're playing fundamental basketball. And you see it time and time out. But I also I do want to give, I guess, an alley-oop because we're not dunking. It's like, let's throw it up. Yeah. To Unrivaled. Have you guys watched Unrivaled yet?
I haven't, but I've heard a lot of good things.
So the women's basketball shrunk the court, made it 3-on-3, and it's up and down, up and down, up and down. And so it's, dude, get a chance, watch some Unrivaled, watch some of these WNBA superstars go in there and just play really good basketball. I mean, it's fun to watch. I would love for the NBA to adopt some kind of concept, maybe the college kids coming in or something along those lines, because it is a lot of fun to watch. And you're not losing any kind of, it's not 3-on-3 half court. It's full court. So they're going back. And it's high paced and it's fun to watch, man. I was very surprised whenever I turned it on and saw some really good basketball play. That's for sure.
In general, I wish 3-on-3 was more popular because like as someone that would love to start playing basketball again regularly, but right now doesn't have the stamina to do full court runs, I would love to get in and play some 3-on-3, but there's nowhere to do it. There's nowhere, like if you want to play basketball inside in San Antonio, you're going to be spending $50 a month.
Yeah.
At least.
And if you play outside, you're going to get shot.
Or just the wind and the rain. Like, you can't play outside in South Texas. The weather's too unpredictable.
Right. You got to play within a specific 2-hour chunk, and that's it.
Yep. But speaking of being outside, I got a pool, and I'm feeling good about myself.
That bottle looks a little low.
It is very low.
I think you need to go get yourself another one. But
yeah, can you see this?
Yeah, that's a beautiful view out there, AJ. Dude, well, you know what? I think it's been a great episode. Let's not keep you from that. Guys, if you're still listening, if you are still with us at this point, like, subscribe, comment, follow, all of the above. We appreciate you so much for being here for these conversations. We love talking about basketball. We love talking about the Spurs, but we love it even more when you're here with us. So we appreciate you. We're going to end this episode the same way we end all of the episodes, and that's with a go. Spurs.
Go.